At the end.
Would stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll begin the meeting with a moment of silence, and as we do, please remember the families of those people who are in the difficulties in the Middle East. Like a motion to approve bill and payroll warrants.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Like a motion to approve to accept correspondence in the read file.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Public forum. Anyone here who wants to speak on something that's not on the agenda? Or bring me a glass of water. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, you got glasses.
Scheduled events. Tonight we're going to be interviewing 3 people for the soon-to-be vacant position of the Assistant Town Administrator. They will begin at 6:15, so we're going to spend a little bit of time just talking about the process. So, we have 3 people coming in. We had over 40 candidates or applicants.
Even more.
Like 45 or so, and we invited, I think, 5 or 6 people out of those. Kathy and Mary Beth and Sean and I went through all of the applications, and we invited, I think, six people to come in, and a couple of them didn't come in.
That's correct. A couple didn't.
A couple didn't come in. We interviewed 3 people, and we couldn't make up our minds to cut any of those people because they were all very good. So we're going to be interviewing them this evening. Sabrina Chilcott, Matthew Dyer, and Daniel Kelly, and they'll be here shortly, starting at 6:15. We've scheduled the interviews for about a half an hour apiece. Although when the 3 of us interviewed them, the interviews lasted longer than that. We're going to try to keep them to a half an hour. Since Sean and Mary Beth and I have already interviewed them, we may not be drilling them again, but I'll ask them a general question, each one of them the same general question first, to allow them to introduce themselves to the rest of the board, and then the board will be open to ask them questions. After they do so, I think what we'll do is we'll invite them to leave the room, and then we'll discuss, we'll deliberate, we'll discuss their performances and their backgrounds, and we've received letters of reference from them, and we'll ask them to come back in and let them know how they did. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Anyone have any input or questions about how we proceed after the interviews?
So there are a couple of ways in which, we could do this, but as you deliberate, it may be clear, or general consensus that there's one person over another. And I would assume, you might want to go that way. If not, then certainly you could just go around to see who each person, would like to vote for. But you may find that you don't need to do it that way after a discussion. So.
Right. And if it's not clear after the discussion, we can vote and see what happens with the votes. It's possible that the voting may reduce the candidates too.
Correct. I assume if it were a 2-2-1, you may want to then take that one person that had one vote and then just vote on the other 2.
And then someone will get a majority, and
Correct.
then we'll have
that might be the
we'll
easiest.
have a candidate that we.
That's basically how Salcho-Votech does it. That's how we do it, yeah.
Okay, is that clear then? Are we clear on the process?
Yeah.
Okay, good. And then after we do that, we're going to have we're going to go into executive session and discuss pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, 2, Exception 2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel, and they are the Chief of Police, the Deputy Chief of Police, and the Town Administrator. That will be after we finish with the ATA interviews. And then finally tonight, we'll go into executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Exception Section 2, Exception, I need my glasses, but I think it's A7, to comply with or act under the authority of any general or special law or federal grant and aid requirements, and that's to review and approve executive session minutes for the 27th of January, 2026. And then that will conclude our meeting for tonight. So we have 10 minutes to contemplate, bring ourselves to peaceful meditation.
The first candidate is here.
So we could
Would you
start
like
with
to
that.
begin early? And I
Okay,
could see
that'd be fine.
Yeah, we just hold it to 5 minutes earlier than normal. And then
This is our first candidate, Sabrina
Welcome.
Laura Howe, Dan Salucci, Chairman Carl Kowalski, Justin Evans, and Sean Kane.
Hi, very nice to meet you. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Sabrina, I'm going to ask you a familiar question.
Okay.
Same question I asked you when we first met, and then I'll open it up to the other members of the board.
Perfect.
We're familiar with your resume, and we've received a report of your 3 references. So we're familiar with you somewhat. But what I'd like you to do is to briefly summarize your experience and and give us a report of what you think are your major strengths, your major weaknesses, if you have any. Well, we suspect you probably have at least one, and why you think that once we've heard all of that, we will conclude that you are the best person for the job. And I'd also like you to inform the board why you chose Whitman as a place where you would like to spend some of your time, and what attracts you to working in this kind of a job, an assistant to town administrator job.
Thank you. I'm really pleased and delighted to be here. I think this is a really exciting time for you. I think this is really neat. I know that the political divide in the world of social media and at the grocery store has really caused a turbulent environment for the work to be done. The work is done in the town hall. The work is done by the people who are invested in the best outcome for the taxpayers who are digging deep to make this work. They work very hard to pay their taxes, to see some benefits, and not every experience is going to be the most positive experience. There are times that answer is just slightly not going to get there. One of the things that delights me the most, truly, is the work with the department heads, with the staff, and with the residents. That's what my strengths are, probably more landed in that communication level. Representing the town administrator and the Board of Selectmen is the job, full stop. There's no room for opinions or ideology or anything else. What the vote is what the message is. And there's different ways to communicate with people. There's a respectful way. There's a way where you can actually listen to everybody who has a concern, hear them, maybe meet them somewhere along the road between the two issues that can't be resolved because of a vote or a statute or some other regulation or something else that's an impediment. And finding those solutions is a master class. It truly is. And that's where the real work is done. And it's done on behalf of the Office of the Town Administrator Administrator and the Board of Selectmen. Full stop. No ego, no opinion, no ideology, just open ears, clear objectives, and hopefully efficient process and continuity and consistency. Even when you have large staffs that turn over through time, it's attrition, it just happens. And change can be frightening, change can be great. And it's a way of finding how everyone operates within that environment. So to tell you a little bit about myself, I think I've already explained what gets me excited and passionate about my job. But I am from Pembroke. Okay, I wasn't born there. I grew up elsewhere, but I moved my family there 26 years ago and raised my children there, and I've worked for the town since 2011. I started in a different role, and then the town went through a Town Manager Act at town meeting. Just chose after two other times that it had failed. The town decided that the operating budget of $76 million and two large enterprise funds pushing us closer to $80 million was worth looking at different management styles. The Town Government Study Committee, and as a representative from the town administrator's office, you get oftentimes the town administrator will task staff to be their liaison on nights they can't be there, bring messages back and forth. You're there to provide the message for the administrator or the Board of Selectmen. Whatever that is, nothing else. It's your work, it's your opinion, it's your decision, and creating that communication flow with some of these other boards, committees, and commissions. Sometimes it's overlooked. Sometimes it doesn't happen. And you can see fissures. You can see little areas of issue that can pop in some of your smaller appointed boards. And it's always a nice idea to have a set of hands and a brain that will go in and listen and be helpful, go over open meeting law requirements, discuss why conflict of interest training must be done. It's every other year. Little things mean a lot, and never overlooking what those are. Bureaucracy and government is intended to be, I briefly discussed this before. I come from the private sector. When I started my career and took it to municipal government in 2011, I had a lot of opinions about how I could change municipal government. Like I could bring really great ideas from the private sector, and ran straight into what municipalities were designed to be. They're intended to be that foundation that everything else is built from. So it isn't designed to be sleek or efficient or fast. It can be sleeker, it can be faster. It's never going to be fast because it's got all of the tangible weight of the roadways, emergency services, education. There's too many things going on. You need to have that stable platform. So asking questions, learning more. Are processes efficient? Were there duplications? Was it silly small things? And that's the beautiful thing about going into somewhere new. You ask a lot of questions. You need to learn. How is it done? What does the town prefer? And to circle back and close with why Whitman, you guys are in a great position right now. You have this, I watched your April 7th meeting. I watched you guys with the Finance Committee and the School Committee, and that was great work. And I don't know if enough people will tell you that, but a town manager form of government's a little bit different. You see a lot of the power consolidated higher up, and there's a lot of staff. And then boards are informed by that staff, but there's a disconnect, or there can be a disconnect. You don't always see issues brought line by line through a budget to save X amount of dollars with the Finance Committee and the School Committee in the same room, doing the work. And that is the absolute best of government. And I know that that probably sounds Pollyannish. I'm not trying to be a wise guy. It is truly exciting because you can make such an impact. And everyone in your audience, and there were so many people at your meeting, it was great. It was fantastic to see that many interested, invested people who knew you would listen to them. And they came out and they shared their thoughts and opinions, and you guys had to make tough decisions, and you did. And it was very undramatic. It was just good work. And I don't know anybody that wouldn't want to be a part of that. I really don't. So I would love to ramble on all day. You have a short amount of time. I'm sorry. Could I turn it back to you, sir?
That's fine.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions?
I have a question. Why are you coming to Whitman and accepting a 30,000 pay decrease?
Interestingly enough, I gained $25,000 of my current salary by being the landfill manager and the recycling center director on Saturdays. So
And you'll still be able to keep that?
I may. I have not yet asked because that would be cart before horse type
Right.
situation. But yeah, that's entirely possible. And it's a Saturday opportunity. And you see everyone at the recycling center. I understand you guys are curbside, but nonetheless, DEP and some of the regulations, again, to geek out and not get overly dramatic, when they passed that master plan, that impacted people. And again, working for solutions, trying to figure out how to make this work in an affordable way. It's great work. And if I could continue to do that, I would. And if I can't, my children's student loans are almost paid off. I do get to have a little bit of joy in my life. And this is a great environment. So that would be why I could understand why there's such a salary discrepancy. That's not what I make in Pembroke.
Right, and you're going to travel back and forth, and I understand that Kathy and Mary Beth spend an awful lot of time that aren't really work hours, like weekends or Friday and
Yes.
holidays, I understand.
Absolutely.
So.
Yes, as a matter of fact, now I take night meetings for the town manager who lives out of town, considerably out of town. That I would consider a commute. My commute is very small. To get here was 23 minutes because I chose a different way. I won't be doing that again. So it was 20 minutes, nice and easy. And yes, I worked for emergency management. I stand up overnight shelters, cooling stations. I'm trying to think. It's endless. There are times that you'll have a vacancy in an administrative assistant's position, and now suddenly someone has to cover a meeting. I had 4 months of conservation meetings, not a big deal. So I was working those meetings, working selectmen's meetings, select board meetings we have in Pembroke, and any other that come along. I assist 3 of our other smaller committees every day. We have a small library. They have no staff. They're all volunteers. And I liaise with them because someone needs to. And it's really manageable. It really is. In the beginning, when you're learning new things and you're taking on new information, it can be a challenge to try to put out more effort in other areas. You really want to lock down your skills, your knowledge base, and go from there. But it's absolutely expected.
I do believe, I'm very familiar with Pembroke and of a lot of problems they've had in recent.
Yes.
I'm a little surprised that you said they have a volunteer library staff. That's pretty interesting.
Well, we have several libraries, and this one is the Lydia Drake Library.
Oh, okay.
It's a beautiful small library, donated by Lydia Drake. The asset is kept in trust, so it has a small amount every year in the budget to purchase new materials, pay the electric bill, so forth, but it's entirely staffed by volunteers. It's not an accredited or certified library. Our Pembroke Public Library is the big one.
Is that one?
Yes, correct.
I wasn't even aware that you had the 2, or 3, you
Yeah,
said.
I was going to
so.
say the Cobb Library. Yep. These are small fixtures that go back. Pembroke's 300 years old.
Right.
So we all have those little pieces and pockets of things that we treasure and don't want to lose. And we keep them going, and there's always someone waiting in the wings. But again, property management, just as I'm sure that you guys will understand, you have to make sure that some of these beautiful, quaint little old buildings, you've got to get the mice out. You've got to put in new insulation. The doors are stuck. You have pretty much chronic need on older structures. So those are also things that would fall under this role.
I have a question. Say you did get hired, and you were in the role, and Mary Beth had to step away unexpectedly for a month or 2. How would you feel about being in like the town administrator's role for a short period of time and the pressures that come along with that?
Thank you. That's a great question. I've actually done that myself. So in my 14 and a half years with the town of Pembroke, I covered, I think it's 5 times that I've now covered as acting town manager. And that total time period added up is about almost 5 months. because we had some surgeries and some vacations and some other issues and family needs and other things, and it is just not a problem, especially when you have a solid town manager. This is not flattering. When you have someone who actually set a direction and people understand what those objectives are, there's no room for a question. You guys are in charge. That's the directive. That's what we're doing. That does not change. There will be things that come along, and you get to a place where you're comfortable, I hope, with whoever you choose tonight, that they will work well and be a good fit so that there's comfort and trust on the part of the town administrator to be able to take that vacation or schedule that procedure or whatever may come along in life. And yes, that is not even remotely a factor. Sitting at the table for the meetings, providing the materials. I'm also the licensing agent. I am the communications person for Pembroke. And so we've just gone through the website transition. We have a Facebook, a Twitter, a LinkedIn, and a website presence, obviously. So the website's a little complicated because we really do use it as source material. I'm straying from your question, I apologize. But there's so many facets and functions that when you bring them all together and someone needs to take time off, we know there's a list, there's a calendar, there are items that are due and done, things that have to come forward. And they're done pretty much already pre-planned.
And say over the next 5 years, is it your intention that you would step into the town administrator role?
It is
that
not.
yours?
No, sir, I'm sorry. That is not my career path. I am at a place where I'm very comfortable doing what I do, and I'm very good at it. So I really enjoy the work. I did toy with the idea years ago and elected not to.
Yeah.
And it was a choice,
Thank you.
of course.
Thanks for coming, Sabrina.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you very much. Nice to meet you as well.
So Whitman doesn't have a dedicated finance director, an HR director, or a town planner. Like many towns our size, those functions, personnel issues and policies, collective bargaining, procurement, grant management, planning and zoning administration, budget management and forecasting, all flow through the select board town administrator's office. Walk me through which of those areas you feel most prepared to handle on day one and which you think you'd have some stuff to get up to speed on.
Perfect. I have a background in office management and human resources. So I worked for the Vice President of Human Resources out of Quincy for the YMCA. I was trained and implemented and opened the office at South Shore Mill Pond over in Hanover. That to me is a second skin. So I currently do a lot we don't have a planner. We don't have an HR person. We don't have these things ourselves. So the finance director piece, I would be relying on somebody with a strong grasp of the details of some of these cherry sheets. The budgets, the receipts, those we work on a regular basis. But there's X factors that come in and out from the state that I am not as sure and comfortable with. I would need more experience or view of that. For the most part, when someone takes a vacation or has a minor procedure, you're not setting the budget. So it's a good thing.
If the town administrator directed you to take an action on personnel or procurement matter that you had a serious reservation about, like ethically or legally, like serious reservation,
Of course.
how would you handle that?
Interesting. And you have that conversation face to face with the person who asked you to do it and say, you may be unaware of the fact that this is not permissible or legal under whatever statute we're discussing, whether it's procurement. There are so many areas that you can potentially stray. But as far as would I execute an order that was not appropriate or illegal? No, I would not. At this point, not knowing how your structure works, it would be almost impossible to say, okay, now you don't get a response from the person. Where you go with it, I'm not sure yet. But you would have that absolute conversation face to face. And it could just be a misunderstanding. There's very rarely a situation where someone comes at an illegal idea. So hopefully I wouldn't find it here either.
Think back in your career, what's one decision or situation you handled that you do differently with the benefit of hindsight, and why?
I was very young as a manager. I was flattered to be promoted to a supervisory position in my mid-20s. It was a little young, and I reviewed 26 staff members twice a month and had folks that had to go through progressive discipline, is what we call it now. There were more battles I wish I had waged on behalf of different people. I was too young, and I wasn't bucking the system that young. And now, in the benefit of hindsight, there were opportunities that I could have made a difference. And that's something that I think about. It's the people, I think, that I care most about and that I think about.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, you answered one of my questions. I'm disappointed in the fact that you say that you'd stay, if we chose you, you wouldn't want to move up, because I like to promote within.
I love that.
But,
That's great.
I'm disappointed in that. How are you with grant writing?
Very good. I currently handle our SMP, our Sustainable Materials Recovery Plan, our Green Communities plans. I submit those grants. I've also gone shopping for other grants. Some I've received, some I have not. A lot of times that project needs to come before the grant application does. So you know what it is you're looking for. A grant for the sake of a grant can often be distracting and take away from what limited project management people and entities that you have. So you want to make sure you target the things that matter and that you want to advance to apply for that grant. So yes, I have experience with that. And to be fair about my previous answer about not wanting to be a town manager, I would have had to go back for a master's degree in public administration. That's not happening. So I just wanted to be abundantly clear.
Seems like you already have it.
Well, that's very kind. Thank you.
There are many boards in this town, that we have no control over, like the commission is, and different things like that, right? And they're elected officials. How would you deal with an issue with another board that's actually elected officials, and basically you have no authority over them, but you want to help them and convince them that I wouldn't do it that way? I mean, how would you handle that?
I've actually had that happen. So we have DPW commissioners. Since the Town Manager Act, that has passed. Under a town administrator form of government, our DPW commissioners controlled highway, water, sewer, cemetery, and parks and grounds. They would not consent to an initiative of at the time, a selectman, who really wanted to advance a particular idea of government business partnerships on some of the maintenance of our town properties. Start letting the Small Business Association bring in some other businesses, allow a sign to be put out that, cared for by, and make that agreement. And the commissioners absolutely refused to even consider it. And it took me 4 months of kindness, patience, a lot of listening, and a lot of counterpoint, a lot of but why. But this could be a benefit. It could be a pilot program. You could be the ones that spearheaded it. It could be something. It's about finding out why. What is the reservation? Because you're right. Other elected boards, you have no sway, no authority. But if you develop rapport and relationships with some of these folks, and you go and you listen, and you say to them, I know I keep repeating that, I apologize, but it's truly a lost art. You need to communicate, and the best way through is to figure out what is the objection, what is the problem, why. And would I have carried that ball all the way across and gone for 4 months to their meetings and talked to them over and over ad nauseum about it at their... They allowed it. I wasn't being a bully. I probably wouldn't have, but I had a selectman who really wanted to see it happen, and that's my job.
Okay. Anyone else have any further questions?
Yeah, if you don't mind. I'm interested in self-care.
Yes.
I feel like I love this work, but it also comes with a certain amount of stress, for sure, especially when you're like in your local community or close to your local community. We feel some of that now. There's some tension that we feel, and I'm curious as to how do you deal with that? How do you deal with stress? How do you manage conflict and that kind of thing?
It was a lot harder when my children were younger. To be fair, I have a lot of free time with the kids out of the house. They are grown, they are gone. One is married, two have graduated from grad school and are establishing their own careers. I find myself with a little bit of time. And honestly, it's about self-care, which is investing in yourself, which is taking those moments to, some people work out, I don't. My husband is big on it. It's not my thing. But I love Tai Chi. That's fun. I like stretching and I like yoga. That's fun. I love movies. I love my puppies. You have to find that thing that lets you completely decompress. And there's something funny about, I'm going to date myself, 80s kids. We all figured out how to make it work. And this is probably one of the least stressful times in my life right now. And that's a blessing. But again, it's about acknowledging it. And it's about actually talking it through with someone and saying, here I am, I'm not making headway, this is difficult. But the residents, the staff, the department heads, these appointed boards who just want a little bit of attention and they blossom under it. You know, they're appointed and then a lot of times they're forgotten. It's like, well, you know, go do the conservation thing. And sometimes having someone from the select board, or the Board of Selectmen, forgive me, say, the Board of Selectmen saw that great decision you made.
We are a select board now. You can, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's a fun dance.
I was
Yeah.
just going to say. But it's acknowledgement, not validation, but investment. I put together materials for all of these boards, 8 paragraphs or sections, of what is the open meeting law? How does it apply to you? Here's your mission. Did you know you were established in 1848? Did you know you're a 5-member board? Do you know that, like, these are great things to know? Ground you in your work. And giving someone that anchor in their purpose, you just see the best out of everybody. You hopefully see the best out of everybody. And it is an investment that you can make if you take care of yourself. Sure. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Did you have questions of us?
I would go on and on. I know it's appropriate, but you guys were great in the meeting. I think I had a question about OCPC, ironically. You work with the projects that go into the TIP for Whitman. You promote those projects.
Yeah.
Do you have any coming through?
Yeah, South Ave.
You do. Perfect.
Yeah, I'm signatory at the MPO.
Yeah.
I'm also vice chair of the Joint Transportation, so.
Yeah, but Pembroke's very active, and
Yeah,
we've had some
right.
recent benefits. Yeah.
Yeah, South Ave is, we're waiting for the grant too, but it won't be for a couple of years. They'll redo that street, that section.
And you have a good communications plan to lay it all out, because that's going to be quite the headache for folks.
Yeah, it'll look better, and the traffic will move better and control better.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Sabrina.
Thank you.
It's funny that she asked for OCPC, and here comes Matt.
Hey, Matt.
Hi, everyone. How are you?
Good.
And Matt?
Nice to meet
Yeah, I
you.
haven't seen you in a while, huh?
Good to see you.
Hey, Matt, how you doing?
Good. How you doing?
Hey, Matt.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Good to see you as well.
You're up.
All right.
Okay, Matt, what we're going to do is we're going to interview you. I'm going to ask you basically the same first question I asked you the last time.
Sounds good.
Just to give you a chance to warm up, give the board a chance to warm up to you, hear the same question, same general question, and then they'll have a chance to ask you some questions too. Take about a half an hour, and then we'll interview the next person, and then once we're finished with all 3 of you, we'll deliberate for a while, and then see what happens, and invite you back in and for the results.
Sounds good.
Okay, this is Matt Dyer. He's, I'll give the same introduction. We had a number of candidates, and you were one of the finalists. And the question I asked Matt to begin his interview the last time was to, even though we know your resume, But since that time, we've also had a chance to look at the reports of your references. And, excuse me. And what I'd like to ask you is to give us sort of a brief summary of your resume, zeroing in on what you think are your strengths and your weaknesses, if you have any. But you have to have some. Right? And why, after we hear that, why we would think that you are the best person for the job, that we would hire you as to be the ATA, and why you chose to apply for the job in Whitman, and what attracts you to local government.
Perfect. Well, first, thank you very much for having me back. It's a great honor to sit before you tonight and be considered for this position. A little bit about myself. I actually grew up right on the Whitman-Hanson line, right on Perry Ave, and I spent part of my childhood walking down South Ave and going to Mutual Savings Bank, pulling my money out to go to Supreme Pizza and playing in the park. I'll save you all those stories for another day. And but basically, I grew up right on the Whitman-Hanson line, and I love Whitman as much as I loved Hanson. You know, I have very fond memories in this town. I graduated from Whitman-Hanson, I think the second class in the brand new building, and since then I studied parks, forests, and ecotourism up at Unity College, as well as environmental law and policy. And I received a scholarship to go study for my master's in business administration at Thomas College, also up in Maine. Since then, I worked at all levels of government. I've worked at the federal level for the National Park Service as a backcountry ranger out in Missouri, a front country ranger on the cliffs of Acadia National Park, at the state level as a park supervisor, as well as an urban forester doing the Greening the Gateway Cities project in the city of Brockton. I also serve, right now I am a senior transportation planner at the regional level over at Old Colony Planning, where my focus is climate resiliency and adaptation. And I try to work across all the departments, whether it's economic development, comprehensive planning, area of aging. So with that, I also was a selectman for the town of Hanson for 4 years. And it's been a really great pleasure. And everyone thinks I'm lying or I'm nuts, maybe both, but the truth is I really enjoyed my time as a selectman. Everyone goes, it's just a thankless job, lots of headaches. Why did you enjoy it? And it was giving back to my community. And my track record is I've always been a public servant, and I don't think I could really ever work in the private sector because it's something that I take great pride in. To be able to work on projects that people don't really think about, and things just get done. And no one ever thanks you for those little things that you do as a public servant. And that's something that I take really great pride in. I don't look for a thanks. I just do it because it's a good thing to do. For your question of what's my strengths and my weaknesses, my strengths, I think I'm a very personable guy. I can get along with most anyone and everyone. And I'm a really hard worker. I've been told I'm a quick study. And I don't really carry an ego with me. You know, it is what it is. You know, there's no reason to try to impress people. A weakness of mine is I always try to help out people, even if it comes to the detriment of myself. So I have colleagues that will come up, hey, can you help me out with this project? Okay. And then it takes away from my time on the projects that I'm working on. But I want to make sure that I'm delivering my projects on time, so then I work extra hours. So I've been getting better about saying no. I'll help you out. I'll give you a direction of where this might help you out. And if that doesn't help, come back. I'll hold your hand a little bit more and help you out. But I'm not just throwing my time towards their projects, because I've learned that I need to have my time as well. So, but overall, the reason why I think I'm a really great candidate for the town of Whitman is I've worked at all levels of government. I have really great connections throughout. I've maintained my relationships with everyone. So whether it's DCR or DER or OCPC, friends in the Park Service, or friends over in Hanson, I have a really great network that I'm able to reach out to and get different perspectives on things. Hey, what do you think about this? hey, do you mind if I pick your mind on that? So I feel that I bring a diverse spectrum of experiences at all levels of government, and I think that's important, especially at the town level, because we work at all levels of government and know how they all operate. Does that answer your question, Chairman?
It does. Thank you.
All right.
Other people asking questions? Yes.
Do you mind me asking this personal question? How old are you?
35.
Okay. Oh, you're my son's age. That's all right. You're doing well, because I just learned what you just said about making sure you don't do too much for others, I think last week, and I'm 60 almost, so you're good. Why did you choose this role and to apply? Because I remember I saw you up there, and I asked you what you're going to do with the animals when you built this road.
Yeah.
But what made you choose to apply? And Mary Beth is pretty much scheduled to retire in a year or two. Would you be willing to take over a role such as hers in a year or two when times have changed? Or is this where you're looking to stay?
No, that's a great question. So the reason why this position was attractive was, as I said, I really did enjoy my time as a selectman and working at the municipal level. And to be able to be paid for that, as you guys know, you guys spend a lot of time behind the scenes working. But to be able to be at the municipal level and to be paid for that work that I really did enjoy is the reason why I was attracted to this position. And I would love the opportunity to become a town administrator if the board so decided that I was the fit for the position.
So you would go to any further schooling that was needed, or maybe you even already have that, I'm not sure. And I have one silly question. Is it 4-year term for the selectmen over in Hanson? Because this is 3, so that's the difference.
Great question. For the term, I did run for 2 terms. I completed my first term. The second term, I was reelected. But at that time, I was working for DCR, and I had taken a role at the state level. So I was not just in Brockton anymore. I was out in Holyoke. I was up on the North Shore, and I wasn't getting home until 6, 7 o'clock at night sometimes. And if I'm going to do something, I want to be sure to give it 100%. I didn't want to be that selectman that was only showing up every other meeting, maybe once a month, because that's not good representation of my constituents. So I decided that I was going to step down. I wasn't just going to disappear, so I said I'm going to step down at the next election, so that way there was no special election. There was no extra additional cost because of my decision. To answer your question about additional schooling, I truly believe that everyone should be always continuing to learn. You never stop. You can't stop learning, especially now. Things are changing so fast that you need to continue your education. You can't just stop just because you got a degree. You always have to keep on going. So in my spare time for fun, I go to the Massachusetts Conservation Commission Association and I do training there. Right now I signed up for an AI course through the Commonwealth. So I'm always continuing to learn. Right now I'm doing Bay State Roads through Mass DOT, going to all those trainings as well. So I love to learn. I don't think I could just say, I'm good. So, yeah. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely. I'm glad to hear it. Thank you.
I'll second that. Keep on learning. That's a good thing.
You want to go next? You want me to go next? You want to go this way?
I don't mind going.
Huh?
Yeah, we'll keep the same bed in order.
Okay.
I'm curious about self-care and some of the passion that you have for the work that you do in government. What projects have you done that really felt really good? And also, this work, as a selectman in Hanson, you could feel some of the stress of that office, and taking that home with you can really be a grind. Mm-hmm. How do you manage your stress, and how do you implement self-care that keeps you on track?
Yeah, great question. So the first part of your question of like what's some projects that I've been really passionate about, I would say the Greening the Gateway Cities project over in Brockton. Our objective was to plant over 2,500 trees within 800 acres in South Brockton, and everyone thought I was nuts to take a job in Brockton and have to go door to door and talk to people about trees and why they should let us to plant a free tree on their property. And I got so much satisfaction out of that, knocking on doors, having conversations with hundreds of people about, it wasn't just about trees, it was, oh, I grew up in this house, and learning their backstory to it. And to leave a lasting legacy in Brockton of planting 2,500 trees that, hopefully all of our grandkids and great-grandkids can go to South Brockton and hang out among those trees. And the extra work that we went through to work with the schools to try to teach the kids the importance of trees and going to Arbor Day projects and just making people realize that trees are just more than just the thing outside the window. It was something that could keep you cool, it gives you health, it makes you more relaxed. So that was one of my favorite projects, especially in the work of government, right? And for self-care, I'm an avid outdoorsman. I love to go out, I love to hike, I love to go sea kayaking, I love to walk my dog down at the Burridge. I'm a photographer, so I like to be outside taking photos, spending time with friends. Being disconnected is always nice, so I got rid of my social media when I was a selectman, and I got rid of it when I was in college too. Nothing good is on social media. I like to live in the moment, be out in the woods, as I mentioned, and projects around the house. So I bought a fixer-upper a few years ago, and it's always a project around the house, and it's just kind of nice not to worry about things for a little bit other than, did I pick the right shade of paint, So, so that's how I kind of take care of myself. And it's a stressful job as a selectman and as a town administrator. There is a lot of burden that sits on your shoulders that you like to say, I'm just going to leave it at town hall tonight, but it goes home with you in one way or the other. And just being mindful of it, right? And just approaching it in that sense. Does that answer your question?
It does, thank you. Yeah.
I just want to ask you because of what you said. Did you ever hear the story of the man who planted trees?
Johnny Appleseed?
No. An actual man that planted trees, like thousands of trees over his lifetime and changed the whole entire landscape of that part of the world. I'll have to send it to you, but it's very famous.
Please
and
do.
And that's the first thing I thought of. So.
What part of the world was that?
Over like in Asia or something, and he just started out planting like just one by one, and it went from like desert to all trees. It's called The Man Who Planted Trees.
Oh, I gotta look that up.
Yeah, it's been a favorite story of mine for about 20 years or more. So,
Right downtown.
yeah, it's very nice. So, but that's all I could think of. So,
How's it going, Matt? So you may know this, but Whitman doesn't have a dedicated finance director, HR director, or town planner. Those functions, personnel issues and policies, collective bargaining, procurement, grant management, planning and zoning administration, budget management and forecasting, all come through this office, the Select Board and Town Administrator. Walk me through which of those areas you feel most prepared to tackle right away and which you think would take the longest to get up to speed on.
Sure. So I think I would say that human resources is something that I feel very comfortable with. It's something that I've been doing when I was overseeing the program over in Brockton, interviewing, onboarding, training, supervising, disciplining when it was necessary, offboarding, working with union, non-union employees, working with folks that are older than me, sometimes smarter than me, but the whole human resources aspect of it, industrial accidents, going out on PFML, So I'm pretty knowledgeable about human resources, but any human resource person will say, there's always something to learn, right? So I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm well-versed in human resources, but I feel very comfortable with it. With zoning, the nice part is you have your bylaws to help guide you along, and you have great historical knowledge within this building that I feel that I'd be able to, if there's something that I don't know, I'm always one to go seek out the answer. I'm not going to just say, I feel that this is right, and that's what I'm going to go with, right? But understanding why is it zoned this way? What could it be zoned to, and what would be appropriate for that? For grant management, I've been on both sides of the table for grant management. I've been the person that does the onboarding for your grant, sitting down and meeting with you to say what's the goals, the objectives, doing the check-ins weekly, monthly, whatever it may be, and then closing out that grant, reviewing their report, and then going out into the field to make sure that it was actually done in accordance to whatever the grant may be. But then also, too, I've been on the other side of the table applying for grants. So we just were awarded a DEP grant for about $23,000 for a pilot project that I want to launch over at Old Colony Planning for MS4 reporting, and trying to modernize, get away from the paper and go modern with GIS, and making it simple that anyone can do it, and then try to implement that to any community that would like to be a part of that program when we get additional money. For financing, it's working. I have a master's in business and administration, so I'm familiar with financing, and it's working with the committee, the finance committee, to make sure that we're all on the same page, and folks kind of do things in a different way. You know, I'm sure we did it differently in Hanson than you guys do it here in Whitman. So it's making sure that you're learning the ways and not just going in going, no, this is the way I'm going to do it, but learning the ways that you're doing it, because there's a reason why you're doing it that way, right? So yeah, does that answer your question, Mr. Evans?
Yeah, I think so. If the town administrator directed you to take an action on a personnel or procurement matter that you had serious reservations about, and I mean like ethically or legally serious reservations, how would you handle that?
Yeah, so if I was put in a position where it was unlawful for the action that's being asked of me, I'd have a discussion with the chairman of the select board to say, this is the position that I'm in. These are our options, doing the research of how to approach it, and then see what's the action that the chair would like to go. If the chair would like to bring it to the rest of the board, or if, just to be a sound check. And if they say continue with it, then I think that I would resign. If it's unlawful and I'm being asked to do something that's unlawful, sorry, I wouldn't want to carry that reputation or legacy with myself.
Okay. And then think back on your career. What's one decision or situation that you handled that you do differently with the benefit of hindsight, and why?
There's always hindsight's a beautiful thing, right? There's definitely times. I guess one easy one would be just supervising people, right? I remember there was one instance with a member of my crew. I said something. I tried to critique them in a positive way, I thought, and they took it as in the wrong way. They left the job site. They were really upset, and it was like, what's going on, and I just kind of left it be. And, I let him cool off. And then later on, we talked about it. What was that all about? And he said he was having a really bad day. And it was something that I didn't really notice, but it just was the way, I should have picked up on those little signs of, he was throwing the buckets around a little bit more that morning than usual, and he was kind of slamming doors, and I didn't really pick up on it, I guess. So I guess it's just being more aware on the little things. I know that's not like the best example, but it just was maybe perhaps in the way that you approach criticism too. It's maybe instead of just saying, hey, do it this way, hey, that's an interesting way of doing it. Why are you doing that way? And maybe inquire and then try to feel it out rather than just, hey, that berm is not right. So, yeah, sorry, I know that's not the greatest example.
That's all right.
Is a very good example.
Okay.
Is a very good example.
So,
Don't sell yourself short.
all right.
Anyone else have any other questions?
Okay, Matt, it says, is Mary Noya here?
She does. So
You get yelled at if you get picked?
if you do, I'll buy you a pint. But I did reach out to my employer to notify them, especially where this was going to be a public session. I wouldn't want my employer to be caught off guard tomorrow going into the office going, hey, did you hear about Matt Dyer? So I did approach them. I did have that discussion with them, so they do know I'm here.
I hope they gave their blessing.
And they did.
Yeah.
They did.
Were you on the board my brother-in-law was on, Steve Amico?
I was.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, not on the select board, sorry. I thought you were talking about the OCPC.
He was on that
Council.
too for a while.
Do you have any questions of us, Matt?
Yeah, okay. You've already answered a bunch of my questions because I'm about grant writing, and you've already explained that, why you're leaving OCPC if in fact you do get the job. And if you are chosen, would you consider running, stepping up and going to the town administrator? Because I do like to promote within,
Yeah.
especially when person that's just under the big boss, right? Is there to learn exactly what the town's all about. Instead of somebody new walking in and going, "Oh my God, I didn't know that,"
Yeah.
But you've answered all my questions, Matt, and we'll just see where it goes. Thank you.
Excellent.
Do you have any questions of us, Matt?
So I asked this question last time, but I would love to hear from the other select board members. Is what is the next exciting thing that you see coming down the road for the town of Whitman? What excites you about that project or bylaw or whatever it may be?
South Ave?
Yeah.
When that gets
Yeah.
done.
That'd be a
We're
beautiful
working on it.
project. Yeah, we're working on it right now, yeah.
I look forward to the day that there are people on our ballots and that there are people like the woman stated before, but she didn't realize the people were here with pitchforks because they were afraid the library was going to close. I'd like to see a crowded room like that every single time we meet. And I'd like to see all the positions filled with more than candidates that are there. Like I see the planning board has 3 opportunities and there's 2 people. I see most people don't have anybody opposing. So that's what I look forward to seeing down the road. I don't know if it's going to happen, but I pray. Maybe you could help with that. You seem very personable and have a lot of energy. And if you can go to strangers and talk to them, that's huge. Many people don't want to talk to people unless they have something to offer them. So that's very good trait.
Yeah, and at least for me, Whitman has really good bones, I think is the right way to put it, right? We've got a downtown that looks like it's out of a Hallmark movie. And, our Economic Development Committee is working on what can we do to draw more businesses in, more development, and make this really a destination town. We've got all the components of a really cool, a world-class town park. Some of the best South Shore bar pizza anywhere in the world. What can we do to really lean into that and grow from there? Start bringing tourists to town or something. Like what is that next step? I'm really excited about what that might look like.
Yeah. Great. I don't know if I'm ahead of schedule, behind schedule. I don't want to keep the next candidate waiting.
Another question?
Yeah, I guess another question, I didn't ask this last time, I don't think. What would be one thing that you could change in Whitman, if you could? And if that's too personal and we want to talk about that offline, so South Shore News doesn't pick up on it, we can definitely talk about that later. But
I think maybe you could start planting some trees, so.
urban canopy, all right, great, yeah.
Well,
South Avalon.
I'm a little older than Justin. He's also my son's age. And I remember, Paradise Gardens and, the King's Castle land, and I mean, the bowling alley. The Toll House, of course.
Movie theater?
Yeah, the place that, you had the fraps and stuff at the center. The center of town, actually, I don't know what I would call the center of town at the moment, but the center of town that's the oldest is Jenkins Block, and that's my grandfather's family.
Oh, okay.
They built that center. They actually, if you look it up, they actually built a lot of Whitman. And I'd love to see that old feel of this town. You see it more like, have you been recently to Middleborough?
Yeah.
And that right there is what I would like to see again. It's nostalgic, it's beautiful, it brings people together. And volunteerism actually does still work and exist. Yeah. And I'd love to see things like that. So maybe you can start with the trees and such.
Yeah,
I maybe go around planting daffodils, because once at the bandstand, me and my daughter and granddaughter, who were both, I think, 4 at the time, planted all the daffodils that are there.
Oh, great.
So, yeah, be nice. But I enjoy people that love people and want to engage in people. Carl has an angel of a wife that dedicated her life to helping strangers and meeting people and getting to know their story. And that's why I did like your perspectives, because I'm a high-risk care worker, and I like that you liked schooling, but I never even graduated high school. I was homeless at 12, started my own business at 14. So I believe in a lot of things, and I really like your energy. I think that Whitman could use a nice positive energy and move on to the things that Justin would like to see. And I'm going to see them before I kick the bucket soon.
Don't kick it.
Well, I mean, goodness gracious, I'm almost 60. I mean,
For God's sakes. Make me feel old. I'm 82.
You could be my daughter for crying out loud.
I know it. Actually, you can be. My oldest daughter's older than you are. She's 65, my oldest daughter.
I'll add to that. One thing that I would like to see change, I love that people in Whitman have strong opinions. You never have to know if somebody disagrees with you, they're going to tell you that, which I really appreciate, and I like direct feedback. But something I think we could do better is disagreeing on hard topics, but disagreeing in a bit more respectful ways.
Yeah.
Sometimes that can be toxic, coming down from like federal politics and that kind of stuff, and how that trickles down to local stuff. I think being able to reach across the aisle and have respectful dialogue, but still you can hold your own, you can have strong opinions, but being able to listen more carefully, and I think that is important we're going to have a couple tough budget seasons coming, and I think being able to work together is going to be important, even if we do disagree. So, yeah.
Great. Well, thank you.
Okay.
oh, thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
All right, and Mr. Chairman, congratulations on,
Oh,
so.
Thank you.
And thank you for your service.
thank you. And cousin Matt, that'll be fine.
Thank you.
We have to check that out,
And make sure you look up the man who planted trees.
I will. I'll do that next while I'm waiting.
I think you would enjoy it.
So, thank you very much. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you. Thank you, Matt.
Are we ready for the next?
Hi, Dan.
You're welcome. Hi, Dan.
Hi,
Good to see you.
good to see you too.
Daniel, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Not too bad.
Happy to be here.
Not too shabby.
Yep.
That's from a movie, right? Not too shabby. Who says that?
Shabby.
Who says it? Okay, Dan,
Yep.
I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked you at the beginning of our interviews.
Yep.
You were one of over almost 50 candidates that we chose to interview. We interviewed, we interviewed 3. We asked 6 people to come to us, 5 or 6 people to come.
6.
Some of them chose not to. But when we went down to candidates, you were one of 3 finalists. And they were all so good that we're interviewing them all tonight. Okay, so down to 3.
Understood.
And we've interviewed 2 already, you're the 3rd. What we'll do is we're going to ask you some questions, and then you'll be excused outside, and we're going to deliberate.
Okay.
And then we'll ask all 3 of you back in to inform you of the results of our deliberations. And that's the way it'll go.
Sounds good.
You'll probably be here another half an hour to 40 minutes or so, and then you'll know. The fact that you are one of 3 is something to be proud of, because there were a lot of really good people that sent in their resumes. But the question, you'll know the question, you'll have a chance to answer it again. It was interesting that the 3 people that we asked the question answered it a little bit differently this time, but
Yeah.
that's fine. We've seen your resume, actually, and we know you.
Yep.
What I'd like you to do is to summarize it, briefly, where you came from, what you've been doing lately. Emphasize while you're doing so, try to emphasize what you think are your strengths,
Yep.
what you think might be your weaknesses, and why you think that after we've heard from you, why we would choose you to be the best candidate to be the Assistant Town Administrator in Whitman. Also, if you could let us know why being the Assistant Town Administrator in Whitman is the thing that interests you the way it does.
Yeah.
And what interests you also in working in local government? What's important about that to you?
Yeah, I can definitely do that. Obviously, for me, right now, I'm the health agent for the town of Whitman. I've been here a little over 5 years. You could say, whoa, how does that correlate? And the answer, to be truthful, is maybe not super. I do think, obviously, working in town, I know the different department heads. I think I have the institutional knowledge of the town, what's going on as far as projects, kind of the financial climate. For me, I think the biggest strength going up there would be my adaptability, my willingness to work extremely hard, because I see how hard Mary Beth and Kathy work, and they're always here. I grew up in Whitman. I live in Hanson, so I definitely come by on Fridays and Saturdays and see the cars. I know kind of the hours it takes to get the job done. I know I would have a lot to learn, but I'm willing to do it, and I think that's one of my biggest strengths. I'm, like I said originally in our first interview, which not everyone was here, I'm not someone that's afraid to ask questions. I know I'm not going to come in and know everything about the office. I'm not afraid to admit that. I know it's going to, especially the first couple of years, be a lot of learning to do. I feel like I have really good relationships with department heads and different people on different boards and committees, and I know there's a lot of knowledge to be shared. I would do my best to ask those questions, get the knowledge, and complete tasks. I'm never going to do something haphazardly and try to complete a task I don't know how to do. It's just not something that I do. I'm going to ask the questions before I wing it and submit something that might be very important that could potentially impact the town. I think the reason I would like to be the assistant town administrator, particularly in Whitman, is I really care a lot about the town. My motto downstairs has always been, the residents are my boss at the end of the day. Of course, the Board of Health has autonomy from even the select board, and that's from Mass state law. But I just feel like we're here to serve the people, and this would let me do that at a higher capacity. And I don't want to ramble on too much. I know we have a short amount of time today, and I want to let everyone get questions, but if you feel like that answers it,
Thank you, Danny. Other people have questions. Laura?
Oh, no, I don't.
You're going to pass?
Yeah, I don't have any questions.
Yeah.
We're going to go with Sean.
Sure.
Got to keep the same.
Well, first I'd say, listen, you're the candidate that we're rooting for. Regardless of what happens tonight, we definitely see a lot of potential in your leadership skills. We want you here. We want to recognize your dedication to the town.
Appreciate that.
If Mary Beth had to take a month off of work,
Yep.
she couldn't play the role. Talk to us about your ability to step in during that time.
Yeah, I think I'm someone that handles pressure and stress pretty well. Obviously, depending on the timeline, if it was, so let's say I started July 1 and then December rolls around and Mary Beth, for some reason, has to go for a month, I would feel kind of like I touched on. I have some institutional knowledge of the town in what to expect and also the different key players in town. And I would ask a lot of questions. I know I wouldn't know everything that Mary Beth is doing, as I'd still be learning things that Kathy completes on a day-to-day basis. I would hope her going out, there could maybe be, whether it be, I don't want to call it a checklist, but tasks that she'd say, hey, these are the things that absolutely need to be done. And I would do my best to complete them. I would call on members of the select board, potentially different department heads, whoever I felt would be able to help me complete those tasks. I know it would be an all hands on deck and also be prepared and expect, and I'd be willing to log even more hours than we would be originally, so.
Thank you. And then one more from me. Working in town, especially a town that you grew up in, it does have it brings with it a set of stresses. I mean, it can be incredible also, but a certain degree of stresses where some of the people where you might have to make some hard decisions, and some of that feedback can be difficult.
Yep.
Talk to us a little bit about what do you do to manage your stress, self-care strategies that you have to keep you on track even during those difficult times.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I would say a lot of that comes in sport. I love to golf. I get to play in a couple different men's leagues. One of the biggest things, I recently have had a daughter, and for me, family time is just, there's nothing else like it, especially now. It really is the best. Even today on my lunch break, I did a couple of laps around the park with my wife, who was off, and my daughter, Georgia. So there's nothing in the world like it, being a new dad. And then I would also say, for me, difficult conversations. I know it's not directly tied to that question, but I just think people can appreciate, and I know I do, is if you got to tell me something hard, I'd rather you sit me down, look me in the eye, and just tell me how it is. I understand life isn't all sunshine and rainbows, and difficult decisions have to be made every day. And I just think being honest with people is appreciated, even though if they might be mad in the moment or upset or disappointed, as they look back on it days or weeks or months later, they can appreciate that you were honest with them. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
Well, I really clicked on those two things. The thing about having a daughter. My first child was a daughter.
Yep.
And something really special about having a daughter.
It's been
The
a lot
other
of
is
fun.
the golf thing.
Yep.
My wife worked with a doctor when she was working for the Catholic Charities Detox in Brockton years ago, and he took me out golfing once. I'm a terrible golfer, but he took me out golfing once at the Halifax Country Club, and he says, "Carl, you know what's great about golf?" I says, "No, what?" He says, "You don't think about anything else when you're playing golf. You don't think about work. You don't think about your home. You don't think about anything else except what's around that corner, if there is a corner." And you know what? He's absolutely right. I used to play a lot of sports.
Yep.
I always thought about everything else when I was playing.
Yeah.
Even when I'm trying to hit a ball, when I'm trying to hit a racquetball or a squash ball or something like that. But when you're playing golf, you really don't think about anything else.
Yeah.
It's totally relaxed. So we're thinking the same way.
I'd like to say I'm good at golf, but I won't lie.
The you know how lean we are managerially here.
Yep.
Other towns that seem to be doing very well, and they are. They have best practices and all of that. They have somebody who plans, somebody who writes grants full-time, plans full-time, does HR full-time, deals with the union full-time, etc.
Yep.
We have Mary Beth, and for a little while longer, we have Kathy,
Yep.
who spread out over all of those things. The ATA has to do a lot.
Yep.
Has to do a lot. You ready to jump into that pool? Now, your degree is going to help you.
Yeah, I mean, I've got the chance to have some conversations with Kathy, and she has told me it's you go into the day wanting to do A and B, and then you do C, D, and E instead because they come up and they need to be done immediately. So I feel like I know what to expect, that it's going to be something different every day, and I might be planning to, hey, I really got to finish up some contract, we'll say, and then instead you have a fire somewhere else and you got to put it out. I mentioned it in the original interview, but I feel like I can be a bit of a Swiss Army knife. I do it downstairs, obviously on a different scale, but I can go into a day being, oh, I need to get 3 inspections done, and then all of a sudden you get a call from police or fire, the building commissioner, hey, I'm over at this house and I'm seeing, could be any range of things, and all of a sudden your day has been flipped on your head, and those inspections are gonna have to wait until tomorrow. Obviously we're talking kind of different scales here, but it's not something that bothers me to kind of have to adapt on the go and just get whatever the task done on hand needs to be done. So,
Thank you.
Carl teed me up well for this one. So, yeah, we don't have a finance director, an HR director, or a town planner. So this office handles personnel issues, collective bargaining, procurement, grant management, planning and zoning, budget management and forecasting. Which of these areas do you feel most prepared to handle day one, and which ones do you think will take the longest to get up to speed on?
I think probably if there was 2 that I would feel pretty comfortable going in with, would probably be a lot of HR stuff. I know the staff. I feel like if you asked the staff, what do you think about Dan? Hopefully most of them would have nice things to say. Maybe not all, but I think I'm someone that can kind of get along with anyone and also hear people out on issues they may be having. Also, as far as grant writing, not that I do a ton of it, but I have done some grants for public health and also for emergency management. So it's something that I'm at least familiar with, and I think obviously adapting that and bringing it into other departments. I know a lot of times a lot of the grants are things for, say, IT to cover a big expense. Well, there might be upgrading software or infrastructure. Same with facilities. It could be generators for a building. I'm pretty confident that I could sit down and get it done. And then I would say where I'd need the most brushing up and getting brought up to speed would probably be the financial side. I know municipal accounting examples is a lot different than out in the private sector, so I'm sure it's something I'd have to learn, but I feel confident that I could.
Okay. And here's a hypothetical. If the town administrator directed you to take an action on a personnel or procurement matter that you had serious reservations about, and I mean like ethically or legally serious reservations, how would you handle that?
I would hope that wouldn't happen, and I assume that it wouldn't. However, if it did, again, it goes back, I'm not someone that's super uncomfortable having a different conversation. I'd probably look at them and I'd say, I have some questions about that. Wouldn't that be in violation of, you could go any which direction, whether it's a statute, a law, a bylaw, whatever it may be, and I'd say maybe we should ask town council about that, or maybe we should get a second opinion, and I would leave it at that. I'm a big proponent of, I don't want to do anything behind anyone's back, and obviously the town administrators who I would be working for, I'd want to be their right hand. I'd want them to have confidence in me to, if they ask me to do something, to get it done. But if I had reservations about it, especially ethically or legally, I don't want to put the town in any kind of a pickle, except at the end of the day, like I said, I'm here to work for the people of Whitman. At the end of the day, they decide the direction that this town goes, so.
Okay. And then think back in your career, what is one decision or situation that you handled that you do differently with the benefit of hindsight, and why?
That's a good question. Obviously, still pretty early on in my career. Some of you may or may not know, I was approached years ago about would I ever consider coming up here. And at the time, I kind of shied away from it. Still very new to the town and downstairs. And not that I think it was a guarantee that if I said yes, I would have been up here. But I think now, after being downstairs for longer, as much as I love the office and the work down there, I feel like I'm just ready for something more. So I think one regret would maybe be not maybe taking that leap and at least trying it sooner. So I know it feels kind of like a cop-out, but
Good answer.
it's...
That's it?
Yeah.
You've answered some of my questions. If you were chosen, what do you feel, what would be your goals as far as moving on with the town?
Yeah, if you mean as far as my career or the town as a whole?
My career.
I would say I would definitely be interested down the line to potentially go to the town administrator's seat. Obviously, nothing is guaranteed, but I feel like if I did a really good job, and I'm also not naive to the fact, it might take more than a year or two to feel like I'm at that spot where I would be ready. But down the line, I would definitely be, at this time, I'd say I'd be interested down the line to potentially
Dan, if there
continue.
was a certain amount of knowledge that was needed that you didn't have, whether it was in budgets or whatever, I mean, would you seek to learn those?
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, I know Mary Beth is super strong financially. I see she puts together 6 budgets in a week for you guys. And I know that's also just hard work, of course. But absolutely, I love to learn new things. That was one of the biggest things that I loved about being downstairs, especially those first couple of years. Every single day, it was something new. And I'd say, oh, I'm not exactly sure. Let me get back to you. I'd do the research and come back with an educated response and make sure we're doing the right thing.
Okay, what have you gotten in grants so far? You said mostly it would be grants dealing with health, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So the biggest one is obviously the Public Health Excellent Grant. That is a grant that we are actively in with the towns of Abington, Avon, Brockton, and Stoughton. So it's for shared services and also inspectional equipment. I personally don't use a shared inspector because we don't have a ton of inspections that need to get done as far as food service. There's about 52 right now if you don't count mobile food vendors. And I think being in a small town, it's important to have the connection with all the businesses in town. So I like to do them myself. It also lets you stretch the legs and get some fresh air, which is nice. And then the other one would be a grant coming in from an emergency management 5C coalition that just kind of pays for some cell phone bills and things like that.
Do you look for them?
I do. In public health, a lot of them are definitely tailored to bigger offices. So it can be hard. Like right now, there was one that recently went by that we looked into it, and DPH just didn't feel like we were a fit because it's myself and then Dina, who's 3 days a week. It was for an internship from a public health student, but they just felt like there may not be enough for them to do here. So we definitely keep an eye out on them. And
Anyone else have any further questions? You have questions of us, Dan?
I don't think I do at this time. I appreciate all your time. That's all.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
We discussed this. Is this considered executive session? If we, no?
No.
I just want to be
Executive
sure.
session. It's open session, yeah. There's no contract negotiation, no exemption.
So I just let them all know that we'll take a few minutes now, and then I'd go back out and they could come in.
Did you want to shut the door?
It's an open meeting, so technically the attorney said you can't close the door completely. I can close it a little bit more.
Or then we're going like this.
I would. Well, okay, let's discuss.
I can
Who wants
see.
to go first?
I can see why you brought all three forward.
They're all great.
That was.
Oh, yeah, how could you not bring all three forward?
Yeah, very nice,
Yeah.
very nice.
I'm open.
Okay, I'll start. Originally, when I was reading their
Resumes.
resumes, yeah, my first thought was the young lady, because of her education and her knowledge and everything. But when she said that she would stay where she is, she wouldn't want to move forward, it kind of disappointed me. So then I looked at Matt Dyer, and I know what he does, and he's willing to go forward, learning, and he's very knowledgeable, and he's very proactive, right? And so I think what I'm going to end up doing is choosing him first, and then the young lady second, and Dan
Let's
third.
just see if we can come up with.
Okay.
You think
I think Matt Dyer.
prefer Matt Dyer?
Right, I prefer Matt
Okay.
Dyer
Okay.
because of the way.
His energy.
Right, and he wants to go on, where I wish that if the young lady, that if she said, yeah, she'll move in, she'd like to move higher, that would have been a lot different, but she's not saying that.
Okay. Anyone else like to?
I
Voice your
liked
opinion.
I liked all three as well.
Yeah.
And I felt that the woman, although more educated, I felt like she was more, and not to take away from this, but more towards, she was here already for a long time. She may be retiring in 10 years, where I felt like Matt would be around for 30 years, and I could see him taking over the role and being a leader for, well, till after I'm dead and gone, even though we keep on saying that's not going to happen. It happens to everybody. I really like his energy, and I think that he has a lot to offer. I have never had a working disagreement with Dan. I think he's a very nice man, but I really like the energy of this gentleman, and I liked his knowledge. I liked his presentations. I liked his answer that he would quit. There was no reservation there, and I really like his professionalism and his ethics.
Okay.
I think I agree with you guys. Sabrina, I don't think she would make much of a mistake.
No,
I
me
think she
neither.
brings a knowledge and experience that we could really use. So it's difficult to not choose her. I think one of the qualities that I'm really looking for, in addition to some solid experience, is that the candidate really chooses Whitman. And for me, Whitman, Matt seems to really want Whitman. Like, he sought after Whitman and applied here. He's from Hanson, but he's his family, and he's played a role in Whitman for a long time. He specifically sought this job out, and he wants to be here. And I think, Whitman is a unique town. I mean, small municipal government is quirky and unique. The fact that somebody is choosing Whitman, I think Dan and Matt, that holds a lot of weight to me. Dan knows exactly what he's stepping into. He knows the landscape really well. He has experience in the building, which I think is extremely valuable. My only reservation with him is he has less experience at some of the higher level things. I think Matt could comfortably step into the role if he had to for a month or two, and he has a network. He was the chair at the Hanson as a select board member, so I feel like he's felt those pressures, and kind of like you, I think he's here for the right reason, and he'd likely stay and grow with the community, and that really holds a lot of weight with me.
Exactly.
I think we're all sort of on the same page so far. I think it had them reversed. My thinking was that Sabrina had the highest floor. Like, I don't think you'll go wrong with her at all. I think Matt has the highest ceiling. And if we're looking at someone that can either step into the role in a year or two, if something were to happen today, I think it's Sabrina. But if we wanted to try to grow a future town administrator, it's probably Matt. And I guess that's the question here is what direction are we looking at now? So I think I'm kind of caught. I think it seems like we're leaning Matt as a board. I think I was leaning Sabrina before you guys started speaking, but
I like your
I disagree.
analogy.
I'm sorry, but I disagree with all of you. We're hiring an assistant town administrator. We're not hiring a town administrator. Sabrina could be the assistant town administrator yesterday. She could do the job totally right now. She's been an assistant town manager for 15 years. She can do everything. Without a doubt. If something were to happen to, if Mary Beth, if she were to get sick tomorrow, if she were to get sick in a couple of months, Sabrina could take over. We wouldn't miss a step.
I hope not.
No, we wouldn't miss a step.
you're breaking ethics and legal challenges, and yeah.
We wouldn't miss a step. And I think if Mary Beth were out for a couple of months, she would stay. She would stay, and we would have time to advertise for a town administrator. Matt could apply to be a town administrator. He would be as qualified to be a town administrator in 3 months without having been an assistant town administrator, I think. Dan probably couldn't. Dan, I love Dan.
He's a great guy.
I think he's if he were an assistant town administrator here for a couple of years, he would easily be a candidate to be a town administrator here. Mm-hmm. There was one, and I also do like Matt Dyer a lot, and when I kidded him about being a cousin, the house on Dyer Avenue, my grandfather's sister married the guy that lived there named Dyer. They could be relatives. They could be my relatives. I have no idea. I haven't done any of that checking. And when I mentioned it to Matt, a couple of months ago, he invited me to Thanksgiving dinner. You know, I mean, he's got a charm about him, and he gave a great interview. He did, except for one thing that bothered me. And it was in that same conversation about quitting. If Mary Beth did something illegal or asked him to do something that was unethical, he said he would go to the chairperson.
That hit me too.
He said he would go to the chairperson. He didn't say he would talk to Mary Beth about it. He said he would go to the chairperson. When we asked Dan that question, what did Dan say? Dan said he would go to talk to Mary Beth about it, and said maybe we should seek council's advice on it. That little thing bothered me.
I don't want to interrupt you.
He didn't talk to Mary Beth. He went over her head. Right
I'd
away.
have to have a rerun because I thought he said if it didn't, they didn't agree, then he would go.
No, he
so
didn't.
I'd have to rewind it.
He didn't say that. Maybe he just misspoke.
Right.
I'll give him credit for that. Maybe he just misspoke. But he didn't say that. He said he'd go to. The first thing he said was, "I'll go to the chairperson." But yes.
We've had people in the past that we've hired that have had a strong pedigree that, Whitman is unique. And if they haven't...
I'm sorry, because I don't want to lose my train of thought, because it's easy for me these days. All of them chose to come to Whitman. It wasn't just Matt, and it wasn't just Dan that chose to apply to a job in Whitman. She's been living in Pembroke. She chose Whitman.
Yeah, I'm kind of aware of
Whitman.
what's going on in Pembroke right now. Mm-hmm. There is some conflict going on.
Yeah.
And I think we are extremely lucky that she applied here, and I'm grateful that we had the interview, and she gave an excellent interview. And like I said, I don't think we could ask for a much better candidate. My question is, why would someone come here and stay You know what I mean? And that to me is valuable. You know, somebody who really cares about Whitman as a community is going to weather the storm. Is going to compromise in ways that other people aren't. Not in a bad way, just in like, I want to make this work kind of way. And I really feel that deeply from Matt and from Dan. I don't feel that, maybe just 'cause I don't know her as well and whatnot, but having the relationship with those two guys, I think I feel better about that. Like, they're going to step into the role, really appreciate it, really feel grateful, and really do what it takes to help Whitman, even when the salary's not that high, you know what I mean, and we're spreading them thin. You know, it's going to be a difficult task. So for me, I'm really thinking about the right person for the job, and I feel like Matt embodies a lot of those things that I feel like it's needed to do that job well for a sustained period of time, you know.
Yeah, also, ladies first.
And I honestly feel that we should be looking for the future as well, because it costs, Mary Beth is the one that pointed out how much it cost to run these ads and to get someone else. And having people come and go, that's very hard on departments to get used to someone new. And Whitman is very unique. And I think I just completely agree with everything that you're saying. And I would never pick apart anyone that said, because he was asked a question, if somebody asked you to do something illegal, what would you do? So maybe in his brain, the person is asking him something illegal. What he is responding is he would go to you because you're the bigger boss, and then if nothing was done, he would quit. That is moral. That is. We can talk about conflict of interest laws all day long. Acting on them is what I care about. And maybe he did misspeak. Maybe you want to have him back in and ask him again, because I do respect your feelings, but I would not fault him on that.
Also, with Sabrina, if Pembroke didn't change their form of government, she wouldn't be here.
That's correct, I think.
She wouldn't be here, right? Because she was comfortable where she was. She lives in Pembroke. So the only reason that she's leaving Pembroke is because of the change of government. What does that mean? That if we change something in Whitman, she's going to quit?
It happens.
You know what I mean? You got to look for someone who wants to look at the future and move on, not someone who says, well, I'm not going to deal with this, I quit.
She was saying,
Yeah,
I'm not going to argue anymore.
I think
I'm outvoted 4-1, but all I'm saying is.
But that's how I feel about her.
What?
I was going to vote.
And I thought she was good. I wish she would stay.
Still 3-2.
3-2.
It's not going to.
Say that out loud.
Yeah, sure.
She needs a degree.
And
You're not gonna change your mind.
Sabrina's answer to Dan's question was when you pressed her on
Yeah.
not looking to advance, was that she thought she needed an advanced degree for a town administrator, which I don't believe we've put in any of the hiring requirements for a town administrator. We don't have a charter that requires it. I know that was an issue in Abington a couple of years ago. Their incoming town administrator needed to go and get a bachelor's degree. He didn't have one at the time. We don't have that kind of a requirement, so it's not really an impediment to her moving forward if she were to come in here. It's funny, I've been close on them. I think that, I don't want to say the safe thing, but I feel like we maybe, what's the right way to phrase it? Would we regret passing on a Sabrina knowing that she's ready on day one to run any position that we throw at her? And where Matt, I think, has probably the brighter future and more upside, it's a bet, it's a gamble. Whereas I don't feel that way about Sabrina. And so I think I'm leaning toward Carl's opinion now. May be 3-2 instead of 4-1.
I'm not swaying my opinion.
Do you want to chime in?
Something?
You
I would just
are the
chime
person
in.
who will be working with the assistant town administrator.
And I want to be perfectly honest, because we're doing contracts later. But I'm closer to retirement than not. So if you're looking for this position to be the assistant town administrator and a strong assistant town administrator, Sabrina will hit the ground running. And then go for a town administrator. And your other choices could be right there. But that's just my opinion. I mean, I could work with any of them. They were all absolutely amazing, amazing. Yep.
You don't
Tough
have a
choices.
preference?
If I were picking the town administrator, I mean, I think that Sabrina could do the town administrator if the only thing holding her back was the degree. That could be taken off the table, where in some towns it can't be, and maybe she doesn't know that. But some people just like to stay in their role as assistant, and they don't always want to be, the.
I think it's
The
pretty
town
clear that she
administrator.
would prefer to be an assistant town administrator.
But what's wrong with that, right? A strong assistant town administrator, where I do see the other two candidates going right up. I see them as, if that's what they want.
But they couldn't go right up tomorrow.
No, they couldn't.
And
They
probably
couldn't be
couldn't
in
go
that
right,
role.
and they probably couldn't go right up next year or the year after either.
Probably not in a year or two. It would probably take a few years as an assistant town administrator.
Yeah.
So my way of thinking about that is we need someone in that role that knows Whitman. Dan and Matt know Whitman well, I think. If we're going to be hiring a town administrator, sooner rather than later, there would be some debate as to whether they would be ready for the role or not. But we would have somebody in that office that knows Whitman. You know what I mean? That to me feels, you know what I'm saying, Carl? Like, it's important to me that somebody in that office really knows the culture of Whitman well, is here for the right reasons. And I feel super comfortable with Dan, obviously, and more comfortable with Matt. We've had a relationship with him. He's from our community, that kind of thing. He's really choosing to be here. And then if we had to hire a town administrator, either the town administrator would be Matt stepping into it, or somebody to complement his what he brings to the table.
It is funny.
To be honest, that I'm closer to retirement than not.
Appreciate that.
So I just don't want.
That's why I brought it forward to them with my question.
I don't know that they'd be ready to step up in just a few, 6 months, 9 months, a year.
Well, we need to make a choice.
I was just
gonna-
came in.
It's funny that I see Sean's argument kind of the opposite way.
Helped you out tremendously.
Yeah.
Got you up to speed, and you had a heck of a climb out of a hole. And this gentleman, or woman, might not.
I was just going to say that I see Sean's argument almost the opposite way around, where, if you had a strong assistant town administrator, someone who's been doing, the job for 15 years, right now, if we're trying to recruit a town administrator at Mary Beth's current salary, we're generally going to be drawing first-time town administrators. You're not going to bring in someone with a lot of experience. That could be someone from internal, or it could be someone outside who shows that kind of promise that you're bringing in. And I think having that strong foundation behind them could help that person succeed. Where we've seen that be a challenge in the past, to have a first-time town administrator and not have that strong backbone, and you can burn someone out that way. But
So
Tough decision.
we'll have to
yeah, I think
vote, right? Or
I don't think there's a bad. I mean, these are
yeah, I know.
yeah.
I know. Well,
Want me to ask them?
Need a motion?
Are we,
Well, are we gonna
discuss it?
decide before they
Are we
come
gonna
in? My
vote
goodness.
it?
we've discussed it, so we'll have to.
No, vote it
vote with them?
We're gonna
before
have
they
to.
come in, and then we tell the person,
Yeah, I think.
yeah, we need to vote before they come in.
Yeah, I would think.
And then we
That
tell
would
the
be
person.
kind of rude.
You don't need
I think we should
to
vote and then have them come
Is
in.
that however you
Yeah.
want to do it?
That'll be the kind of way to do it, I
Yes.
think.
Yeah,
Yes.
So would someone like to make a motion to, somebody make a motion?
I want to make a motion for Matt.
well, it's either that, or we can make a motion, put all three names in the
What, in a
motion,
hat?
and then we pick it.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah,
I have a chart, so I can track.
right. I'd like a motion to put all three names into the vote for assistant town administrator.
That's good.
Position, and and we will panel the board to see exactly which one gets the most votes.
Okay, that sounds good.
Okay, I'll second that.
Okay.
Okay.
And so,
You need to vote on just that procedure?
We'll
and
just do, no,
Okay,
no, just make a motion. You make a motion
Yeah.
that all three names are in.
yeah, all set, yeah.
And it's
I
been
was second.
seconded. All those in favor of that motion?
Aye, guess I missed.
And now we'll go around the table and we'll vote. Right? That makes sense. And you just keep score.
I'm scoring.
Okay,
Scorekeeper.
Sean, you're first.
Matt Dyer. Matt Dyer.
Sabrina Chilcott.
Sabrina Chilcott.
Matt Dyer?
Matt Dyer.
Okay.
Here it is.
Okay.
I'll bring them in now.
No, you can just say all three of them.
That's better.
Yeah.
One of us could have voted for Dan just for that. So you got to vote.
Yeah. It's your cousin. I went to high school with him.
What?
It's your cousin. I went to high school with him. Neither of us were from Matt.
Hello, folks. Well, we had a spirited discussion. I don't know if you listened to it, but we did. And it wasn't a unanimous vote, but it was a vote. And Matt, you are the assistant town administrator. You were voted. It was 3-2 vote.
Do we need a motion pending contract negotiations and all the stuff
Yes.
Mary Beth's going to tell us to do?
Right, so we would need a motion. We will have Matt come back into an executive session. We'll have the paperwork drawn up and to negotiate the contract, and it's to begin July 1st
Right.
for fiscal year '27.
And when will that executive session happen?
I think that, next meeting is town meeting night, so I don't think that's the right night to do that.
So it would be July,
It would be sometime in May, I would think, or
May 19th?
May 19th?
we could do it as early as May 19th.
Okay. It would be May 19th. Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
And by the way, all three were superb.
Outstanding.
Thank you.
Outstanding.
Thank you.
I mean, it was very, you can see how long we discussed it.
Yeah.
I think you made a great choice.
Okay, and actually, that ends this meeting. The last two sessions are executive sessions. So
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Very much, everyone.
Have a good night. Thank you.
I just want to say goodbye to those people.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. We need to go into executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Exception 2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel, Chief of Police, Deputy Chief of Police, and Town Administrator. And then also executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21, Exception 1A7, to comply with or act under the authority of any general or special law or federal grant in and requirements to renew and approve executive session minutes 1/27/26.
So moved.
Second.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay, we're in executive session. We will resume. We'll open it again just to adjourn.